What name does your past give you? What have your actions been like in your past that define your identity? Maybe your name is something like shameful, or guilty, or remorseful, or condemned. Today, let's look at someone who's waiting for grace, who had a shameful name. She was a prostitute. She was a Canaanite, which to God's people meant that she was off limits, defiled. Her name was Rahab. And we may be shocked to learn that Rahab was in the lineage of Jesus. Her name is in the genealogy of Jesus in Matthew chapter 1. Her story starts in Joshua chapter 2. In this section, Joshua had sent some spies into Jericho where Rahab lived because God had given the Israelites all the promised land, which included Jericho. But Jericho was a mighty walled city, so Joshua sent spies in to see about the land and just to check it out. Well, these two spies took refuge in Rahab's house, who was a known prostitute. So it was not uncommon to see a man or men coming in and out of Rahab's house. So it was a inconspicuous place to hide, I suppose. What was not common, however, was Rahab and what Rahab did. So when the men came to hide in Rahab's house, Rahab hid them up on her roof where no one would find them. And people come in, look for them, they don't find them, they go out, and then Rahab brings them down. So Rahab hid the spies. She didn't have to do this. She could have been, I guess, patriotic for Jericho and told them where they were and taken care of that. But she hid them. Also, Rahab confessed faith in God, which is something really no one had done in the Bible up to this point. Rahab's confession of faith is the first confession of faith in the whole Bible. Because she told them, I've heard of what God has done on the other side of the Jordan. We've heard of what God has done to these mighty kings and the kingdoms around us, and it brought fear in us. Please, when your God comes, save me and my family. So she'd heard of the mighty works of God, and she had deduced that Yahweh was the true God, and she put her faith in him. And she asked for mercy. She knew that when God comes back, this is God. We are next on the chopping block, as it were. And so she asked for mercy. And when they came back, she received mercy when Israel returned. So what can we learn from Rahab's life? Rahab waited for grace and she got it. One thing we can learn is that God redeemed Rahab. God redeemed her past. So Rahab was in the lineage of Jesus. Think about that for a moment. Let's just read it here together. Matthew 1. In the book of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham, Abraham the father of Isaac, Isaac the father of Jacob, Jacob the father of Judah and his brothers, Judah the father of Perez and Zerah by Tamar, and Perez the father of Hezron, Hezron the father of Ram, Ram the father, we're getting there, Ram the father of Amminadab, Amminadab the father of Nahshon, Nahshon the father of Salmon, Salmon the father of Boaz by Rahab, and Obed the father of Jesse, Jesse the father of David the king. So what does it mean that Rahab is in the lineage of Jesus? It means that she married into Israelite culture. She became a proselyte. For all practical purposes, she was an Israelite. And she became part of God's people despite her past. There is nothing that can keep you from the grace of God if you come to him in faith. God can redeem your past like he redeemed Rahab. Also, God renames your past. She left a different legacy than what she started with. Because one of her descendants, Matthew kind of condenses the genealogy there. There are more people in between these lines often. But her descendant was named Boaz. And if you read the book of Ruth, you know that Boaz was the kind of guy you want your daughter to marry. It's the kind of guy women wanted to marry. He was a good guy. Boaz redeemed the Moabite Ruth, this widow Moabite who nobody cared about, much like Rahab. And he took care of her. He took her and married her and provided for her. God, in essence, gave Rahab a new name. Jesus tells us that To the one who conquers, I will give a white stone, and on that stone I will write a new name that only I and you will know. In Revelation chapter 2. What is the name that Jesus will give to you? Maybe it's forgiven. Maybe it's grace. Maybe it's something only you know. But he can give that to you if you overcome by faith. Regardless of your past, regardless of her past, Jesus was not ashamed to call Rahab his sister. And regardless of your past, Jesus is not ashamed to call you brother or sister if you will wait for him in grace.